Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today you're joining us as we unpack a really fascinating piece of research, Design Principles for Distributed Knowledge Building Processes by Jim Hewitt and Marlene Scardamalia from way back in 1998. Now, you've likely noticed, and your shared materials definitely underscore this, that knowledge isn't just something tucked away in our individual brains. It's spread out, distributed amongst the people we connect with and, well, the tools we utilize.
That's right.
Our goal today is to really get to the heart of what this idea of distributed knowledge means, especially when we're thinking about how we learn and collaborate, particularly in educational settings.
Yeah, definitely. This work really makes you reconsider a fundamental assumption that understanding originates solely within an individual's mind. What Hewitt and Scardamalia and, the field of distributed cognition more broadly propose is that our surroundings actually actively participate in our thinking.
Okay, so let's get into a core concept right away. This paper challenges the traditional notion of thinking as a purely internal solo activity.
Yeah.
Instead, it posits that our environment, from physical objects to the people around us, actively shapes how we think. Consider how, like, a simple grocery list helps you recall items you need, or how a dynamic brainstorming session can spark ideas that, well, no single person would have conceived on their own.
Exactly. That's the essence of it.
This is the essence of what they mean by distributed cognition.
Exactly. And the crucial point here is that it's not just that these elements influence our thinking. They become integral parts of the cognitive process itself, forming this interdependent system.
Okay.
It's less about, dividing up mental tasks and more about a dynamic interplay where our minds, bodies, the environment, our tools, they're all interconnected in how we come to know and understand things.
Here's where it starts to get really interesting for me. The paper explores different lenses through which we can understand this distributed cognition. The first one they discuss is the situative perspective. What's the key insight of this viewpoint for you?
Well, the core of the situative perspective is that learning is deeply intertwined with the specific situation in which it occurs. It's not just about applying some abstract knowledge learned elsewhere. The context itself is fundamental to the learning process.
Right.
And the paper offers some really striking examples that bring this to life.
I remember you pointing out some fascinating research on everyday math skills. Tell us more about that. It really stuck with me.
Certainly, yeah. The researchers studied Brazilian street vendors, dairy caseloaders, and supermarket shoppers. And what they discovered was that these individuals often demonstrated highly effective mathematical abilities within the context of their work calculating prices, organizing inventory, determining the best deals, that kind of thing. However, these real-world skills didn't always translate into success on formal school-based math problems. It wasn't simply a matter of choosing not to apply their knowledge. The way they understood and utilized math was intrinsically linked to the specific demands and opportunities, what we might call the affordances of their particular activities.
So it's as if their cognitive abilities were almost custom-built for those specific environments. Makes you wonder about the artificiality of some of our formal learning settings.
Precisely. Yeah, the situative view really drives home the idea that cognition isn't just something happening inside our heads that then interacts with the world. It's spread across our minds, our bodies, and our surroundings, creating this inseparable, interdependent system.
Okay.
And the paper also incorporates the social distribution aspect, drawing on the work of Vygotsky. How does that layer into this situative perspective?
Right, Vygotsky, the champion of the social side of learning. So this angle really emphasizes how our social groups, how we communicate, the tools and symbols we use collectively, even the shared beliefs we hold, all contribute to our understanding.
Yeah.
It's less about individually figuring out the world and more about successfully navigating and negotiating meaning within a community, right?
Exactly. From this perspective, understanding isn't just about grasping some objective truth. It's about being able to participate meaningfully in the ongoing activities of a community and gradually taking on more complex roles.
Right.
And this directly leads to the concept of cognitive apprenticeship that the paper discusses.
Yes, the idea of learning by doing alongside someone more experienced. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Cognitive apprenticeship, drawing on Vygotsky's concept of the zone of proximal development, describes a learning process where a teacher or a more experienced peer collaborates with a learner on tasks that are just beyond their current independent capabilities.
Okay.
The teacher provides scaffolding support and guidance, gradually transferring responsibility to the learner as they become more competent. It's that sweet spot where learning happens through guided participation in authentic activities. Think of learning a trade from a master craftsman you're actively involved, but with expert guidance.
That makes a lot of sense. But the paper also presents a cognitive perspective on distributed cognition, which seems to offer a somewhat different viewpoint. What's the fundamental distinction there?
Well, a cognitive perspective, while acknowledging that activity in the world is important, primarily views knowledge as residing in the head. Learning from this standpoint is mainly about internal cognitive reorganization.
Ah,
In-world activities are seen as inputs that feed into our mental processes through our senses. So while the situative view says knowing is deeply embedded in doing, the cognitive view sees them as more distinct but related processes.
so it's almost like the situative view emphasizes that knowing is doing, whereas the cognitive view sees them as separate but related.
That's a very clear way to put it. Yeah, the cognitive perspective draws a sharper line between knowing and doing, while the situative view sees them as much more intertwined and inseparable. Those holding a cognitive view might point out that while the street vendor's math skills might be context-specific, other forms of knowledge, like reading, seem to transfer more readily across different situations. This raises important questions about the nature of different types of knowledge.
And this is where some of the challenges to the idea of group knowing
Yeah.
come into play, right? If knowledge is primarily internal, what does it really mean for a group to collectively know something?
Exactly. From a purely cognitive viewpoint, the idea of a group knowing something can seem a bit abstract. The paper cites Nickerson, who raises some really thought-provoking questions. If a group knows something, does that mean every individual within the group knows it?
Yeah.
What if some members hold contradictory beliefs? What if different members possess different pieces of the knowledge? It really compels us to think critically about the very definition of collective knowledge.
It sounds like the cognitive perspective focuses more on how knowledge is constructed within individuals through their interactions, even if those interactions are with others.
Yes, they emphasize distributed knowledge construction, looking at how knowledge emerges dynamically through interactions, like conversations where ideas build upon each other in unpredictable ways.
Right.
Each person's individual cognitive structures are constantly being updated and reorganized as they try to make sense of what others are saying. It's a process of individual minds interacting to build shared understanding.
And then there's the fascinating concept of materially distributed cognition, how the objects around us become integral to our thinking processes. I always find that particularly relatable.
Absolutely. Think about how a keyboard enables us to translate our thoughts into written form, or how taking notes during a meeting frees up our working memory. The paper quotes P, who aptly describes our environments as being thick with invented artifacts that we constantly use to structure our activities, reduce mental effort, and minimize errors.
Yeah.
These can range from simple tools to complex instruments, and even the symbolic systems like graphs and texts, and the very way we organize our physical spaces.
It's almost as if our tools become extensions of our minds in a very real sense.
In a way, yes. We often rely on these external aids so seamlessly that we're not even consciously aware of it. But the paper also highlights a crucial limitation of this offloading. While these artifacts mediate our cognition, they don't actually perform the cognition themselves. Their meaning and function are contingent on the user's understanding. The classic example is the string tied around your finger. It serves as a reminder, but the string itself doesn't contain the memory of what you're supposed to remember.
Right, right,
The understanding still resides within you.
right. The string is just a cue. The actual knowledge is still located within your internal cognitive framework. So the paper then moves on to discuss a combined interpretation of distributed cognition, attempting to bridge these different perspectives. How do they try to synthesize these views?
Well, the combined interpretation acknowledges the valuable insights from both the situative and cognitive perspectives. It recognizes that individual cognition and distributed cognition are not mutually exclusive, but rather engage in a dynamic interplay. Solomon, for instance, proposes that these two forms of cognition interact in a spiral-like fashion, where distributed experiences can shape individual understanding, and individual knowledge can, in turn, influence distributed practices. It's a continuous feedback loop.
It's like a constant back and forth between our internal thoughts and our external interactions and the tools we use.
Exactly. P also contributes to this by using the term distributed intelligence, which focuses on those moment-by-moment interactions and how we adapt and reorganize artifacts for both personal and shared activities.
Okay.
He points out that while we've learned a lot, there's still much to understand about how communal artifacts develop and evolve over time through these interactions.
So with these various ways of understanding distributed cognition laid out, the paper then shifts its focus to the challenges and implications for education. What are some of the key issues they bring to the forefront?
One of the main points is the necessity of shifting our focus in the classroom away from a sole emphasis on individual silent work and towards recognizing the distributed processes that are always present, even in traditional educational settings.
Hmm.
The paper argues that even in classrooms that seem very individualistic, there are always elements of distribution happening from the shared textbook students use to the teacher's instructions and the interactions that inevitably occur.
But the real challenge, as they see it, isn't just about encouraging students to work together or share ideas, is it?
No, the central challenge they identify is how to effectively monitor progress and refine learning goals within these distributed learning environments. It's not simply a matter of dividing up tasks, it's about fostering a collective responsibility for advancing understanding.
Ah, I see.
This leads them to propose the knowledge building community model as a potential framework for addressing this challenge.
Okay, the knowledge-building community model. This sounds like a really pivotal concept in the paper. What's the core idea behind it?
In essence, a knowledge building community is any group of individuals who are dedicated to collaboratively sharing and advancing the collective knowledge of the group. Think of research teams pushing the boundaries of science, professional societies sharing best practices, or even innovative companies fostering a culture of continuous learning.
Right.
The defining characteristic isn't necessarily formal structure or physical location, but a shared commitment among its members to invest their efforts in the ongoing improvement of their collective understanding.
And how does this differ from what we typically observe in traditional classrooms?
The paper highlights several key distinctions. First, in a knowledge building community, the primary driver of activity isn't just completing assigned tasks, but rather making demonstrable progress in understanding and advancing knowledge. While traditional school tasks might still be part of the process, they become subordinate to this overarching goal of collaborative inquiry. There's a much greater emphasis on both the individual's deepening understanding and the growth of the community's shared knowledge.
So it's less about ticking off a checklist of assignments and more about a continuous collective pursuit of deeper understanding. That sounds like a significant shift in mindset.
Precisely. Another key difference is the deliberate effort to access and leverage the distributed expertise that exists within the classroom itself. In a typical classroom of 20-30 students, there's a wealth of knowledge and diverse perspectives that often go untapped.
Yeah.
The knowledge building community model, especially when supported by technology, aims to make it easier to identify where expertise lies and to facilitate what they call many-to-many communication, where everyone has the opportunity to contribute and learn from each other simultaneously, not just from the teacher.
That makes perfect sense. Instead of the teacher being the sole source of information, the entire class becomes a network of knowledge and experience. And the paper also mentions that student-created artifacts take on a different significance in this model.
Yes, in a knowledge-building community, the things students create, their notes, their projects, their ideas, aren't just for evaluation by the teacher. They become valuable mediators of distributed cognition, acting as resources for the entire learning community. In a traditional setting, these might be graded and then filed away or forgotten. But in this model, they are often stored in a shared, publicly accessible database, allowing other students to build upon them, critique them, and learn from them.
So student work is valued not just for demonstrating individual learning, but as a genuine contribution to the collective knowledge base of the community.
Exactly. The overarching aim is to cultivate a dynamic and generative community where every member's ideas are valued and made accessible, contrasting sharply with more centralized, teacher-directed classrooms. The paper even draws an interesting parallel to efficient natural systems that are self-organizing, suggesting we should move away from a purely top-down, centralized mindset in education.
And this is where CSIL, the computer-supported intentional learning environments, comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's presented as a technology designed to help foster these many-to-many environments.
Yes. CSIL is a specific technology developed to support the knowledge-building community model. At its core is a shared multimedia database where all student contributions, referred to as notes, are publicly readable by everyone in the class.
Yeah.
This fundamental shift, moving away from individual storage to a common shared space, is a key feature.
And it provides mechanisms for students to connect and build upon each other's ideas, doesn't it? That seems crucial.
Absolutely. CSIL offers features like linking and commenting, enabling students to explicitly connect their notes to those of others and to develop existing ideas further.
Hmm.
It also incorporates discussion forums to facilitate more structured group conversations around specific problems of understanding. You can see how this encourages a more collaborative and interconnected approach to learning.
And it sounds like the search and browse functionalities are essential for navigating this shared repository of knowledge.
They are indeed. CSILE provides various ways for students to search and retrieve notes based on author, topic, keywords, and other criteria. The Knowledge Map is a particularly innovative feature. It offers a visual representation of the notes within a topic and the connections between them.
Wow.
This allows students to get a bird's-eye view of their collective understanding and how different ideas relate to one another.
It sounds like CSIL aims to create a lasting record of the community's interactions, supporting both simultaneous collaboration and asynchronous reflection.
Precisely. The permanent record allows students to work at their own pace and to revisit past discussions and ideas. The asynchronous nature provides valuable time for more thoughtful reflection before contributing.
Yeah.
And the intensive peer collaboration that's enabled wouldn't be feasible in a purely face-to-face setting.
So, drawing from their research with CSEA, the authors then identified some key design principles for supporting these distributed processes. Let's delve into those. The first one is about supporting educationally effective peer interactions. What are the critical elements here?
This principle emphasizes the vital role of the social dynamics within the learning environment. Factors such as perceived conflict, mutuality, and equality among participants significantly influence how productive their interactions will be.
Okay.
Too little or too much conflict or imbalances in mutuality and equality can impede learning. Effective peer interaction, where students feel heard and respected, is crucial.
And they found that computers, as a communication medium, can actually play a positive role in fostering equality within these interactions. That's an interesting point.
Yes, research on computer-mediated communication suggests that online environments can help to level the playing field, giving all students a voice, regardless of how reserved or outgoing they might be in traditional face-to-face discussions. The asynchronous nature also allows students more time to formulate their thoughts before contributing. Their experiences with CSILE seem to corroborate this, with students of varying participation levels contributing more evenly.
But online communication isn't without its potential pitfalls, like the possibility of misinterpretations or a lack of immediate feedback. How did CSILE attempt to address these?
Well, the paper acknowledges the potential for communication anxiety when there's a delay in response and the risk of written criticism sounding more harsh than intended.
Yeah, that can happen.
To mitigate these challenges, CSILE teachers often explicitly discuss effective collaboration strategies with their students, encouraging them to read and thoughtfully comment on each other's work, and even modeling constructive ways to disagree, sometimes providing sentence starters as examples.
Okay.
The goal isn't to eliminate disagreement, as that can be a catalyst for deeper understanding, but to help students navigate it productively and respectfully.
The second design principle focuses on integrating different forms of discourse, intentionally blending face-to-face and online interactions. Why is this combination so important?
Because both face-to-face and online communication offer unique advantages. Face-to-face interaction allows for spontaneity, immediate feedback, and richer understanding through nonverbal cues.
Right.
Online discourse provides a persistent record of ideas, promotes a more equitable distribution of voice, can reach a wider audience, and allows for more time for thoughtful reflection.
Makes sense.
CSILE teachers often try to strategically combine these, for instance, having students collaboratively construct notes around a shared computer during class time, or using in-person discussions to inform and feed into the shared database.
The third principle is about focusing students on communal problems of understanding. How does this shared focus drive knowledge building within the community?
Well, when a group is collectively grappling with a shared problem, it creates a greater impetus for students to articulate their ideas clearly, refine their theories, actively answer each other's questions, and engage in negotiating meaning. The CSIL discussion facility is specifically designed to support this by allowing any student to pose a problem of understanding, which then becomes a central point for class-wide discourse. The branching feature within the discussions also enables a deeper exploration of specific facets of a problem.
It sounds like this encourages a more iterative and progressive learning process, where initial, broader questions naturally lead to more detailed and nuanced ones as the collective understanding deepens.
Exactly. The paper points out that in CSIL classrooms, they observed a pattern similar to what Miyake found in studies of understanding complex systems.
Mm,
Students tend to start with more general questions and then ask increasingly specific ones as their shared understanding evolves.
interesting.
This creates a rich network of interconnected discussions, which is visually represented in the knowledge map, showing the progression of collective thought.
The fourth design principle emphasizes the importance of promoting awareness of participants' contributions. Why is it so vital for students to see and acknowledge each other's work in this context?
Because in traditional classrooms, the primary focus on textbooks and teacher-provided materials can inadvertently convey the message that student work isn't a particularly valuable resource in itself.
Right.
To cultivate a true knowledge-building community, students need to recognize that their classmates are also active producers of knowledge and that their ideas are worthy of exploration and consideration. Making student work visible and valued is fundamental to shifting this perception.
And CSILE incorporates specific features to support this heightened awareness.
Yes, the knowledge map itself plays a role by providing a visual overview of all the notes within a particular topic. It also offers features that allow students to see which notes have been examined and which are new, highlighting ongoing contributions. The Boolean search functionality also empowers students to group and analyze the class's notes in various ways, fostering a deeper engagement with the collective knowledge base and making individual contributions more visible within the larger context.
The fifth principle encourages students to actively build on each other's work.
Mhm.
What are the specific mechanisms within CSILE that facilitate this kind of intellectual collaboration?
Recognizing that explicitly building on others' ideas might be a novel practice for some students, CSIL intentionally offers ways to create connections between notes. There are different types of connections that are visually represented on the knowledge map, such as builds on, questions, or extends.
Got it.
Teachers also actively encourage students to take up and further develop their peers' ideas through online discourse. The underlying goal is for students to see their own contributions not as isolated pieces of work, but as integral parts of a larger communal intellectual endeavor.
And the final design principle is about emphasizing the work of the community as a whole. How does this shift the primary focus in the classroom?
This principle directly addresses the deeply ingrained notion that the primary purpose of student work is individual assessment by the teacher. By consciously shifting the focus towards advancing the class's collective knowledge, the teacher underscores the value of individual contributions beyond just grades.
Yeah.
When students are actively working on shared discourse objects, as they do in the discussion environment, it fosters a stronger sense of shared ownership and increases their familiarity with each other's work, moving away from a purely individualistic perspective on learning. The emphasis becomes the growth of the community's understanding.
It sounds like effectively implementing these design principles requires a rather fundamental shift in traditional classroom practices, moving towards more shared activity and a central focus on collaboratively solving common problems of understanding.
Absolutely. The paper concludes by stressing that establishing a classroom-based knowledge-building community isn't just about adopting a few new techniques. It necessitates a comprehensive rethinking of how classrooms operate, with a deliberate emphasis on shared inquiry and rewarding interactions centered around collective knowledge building.
So, as we bring this deep dive to a close, what are the most important key takeaways for you regarding distributed knowledge building?
Well, I think the central insight is that knowledge isn't just something we possess individually. It's also a collective and environmental phenomenon. The knowledge-building community model, supported by technologies like CSAE, provides practical strategies for leveraging this distributed nature of knowledge to create more powerful learning environments.
Right.
It underscores the importance of collaboration, shared goals, and the active process of building upon each other's ideas.
And what's the significance of all this for you, our listener, whether you're involved in team projects, trying to understand how knowledge evolves within a specific field, or simply curious about the nature of learning itself?
Understanding distributed cognition offers a really powerful new lens through which to view how knowledge is created and shared. It highlights the crucial role of the environments we construct and the quality of the interactions we foster in the pursuit of understanding.
Hmm.
Whether you're a student, an educator, a manager, or simply someone who loves to learn, this perspective can significantly inform how you approach collaboration and knowledge acquisition in your own life. Think about how the structure of your work teams or your study groups either supports or hinders this kind of distributed knowledge building.
And finally, here's a thought-provoking question to leave you with, something to really consider. This paper touches upon the idea that many efficient natural systems are self-organizing, operating effectively without a central authority dictating every move.
Yeah, interesting point.
How might embracing more decentralized knowledge-building approaches transform not just education, but also other collaborative endeavors you're involved in? What might you design or participate in differently if you truly embrace the power of distributed knowledge? Ponder that, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.